Haman leaves Esther's feast on top of the world. As the pasuk describes it, Sameach v'tov lev, he's happy, his heart is rejoicing, which the Ibn Ezra points out. Perhaps it means that he is more than a little intoxicated at this point as well. But he's on top of the world. He is the intimate of the king and the queen. He is the only one who's invited to the private party. And then all of that excitement suddenly comes plummeting down at the sight of Mordechai, still sitting there, arms folded, refusing to acknowledge Haman's authority in any way, shape, or form. And Haman is furious. And again, the scene, I think, is unbelievable, describing how Haman, in his fury, goes home, and literally, you can picture him pacing and ranting in front of his wife and his counselors, talking about all of his power and all of his wealth, his family, and then he says, "V'chol zeh no shoveh li," none of this is worth anything as long as Mordechai is there. And the description of the unbelievable hatred, and again the irrationality and persistence of this kind of Jew hatred, how Haman, like many anti-Semites through the centuries, is so focused on the idea that the mere presence of the Jew somehow takes away from everything about him. This single focused hatred, which again manifests itself in the fact that the way that the Pesukim seem to describe it, that Haman is so bent on his goal that he goes in the middle of the night to construct his gallows in order to have Mordechai executed on it. What's interesting is the description first provided by Zeresh that the gallows should specifically be 50 cubits high. Now again, if we assume an amma, a cubit is 1.5 feet, which is on the conservative side of defining the length of this biblical measurement, right? We are talking about a structure 75 feet tall. And the question is, why was it necessary to construct such an edifice to destroy Mordechai? Certainly would have been just as simple, to take him out in the back and shoot him, or at least to construct a simple gallows. Why make something so tall? So the Gra suggests in his commentary on the Megillah that the notion was to create a spectacle where wherever Haman was able to be, that he could see the hanging of Mordechai. And even again, if he was called to the king's palace, that he was able to see the gallows in his backyard from wherever he was. And perhaps this is an antidote, right, that Mordechai, as a living, breathing Jew, his mere presence, right, threw Haman into a fury. That perhaps what Zeresh is suggesting is to create the opposite kind of visual stimulus. That wherever you're going to be, whenever you see the hanging corpse of Mordechai, right, that will kind of stir you and fill you with joy. The Gra points out that this, in fact, is actually hashgacha. This is actually divine providence. That Haman's notion, right, was that I can be sitting, in the office in the palace, look out the window and see Mordechai dangling there. But that all of this was a hashgacha, so that at that final moment, when Achashverosh, filled with anger, is ready to sentence Haman, right, and in runs Charvona and says, "Look, there's the gallows in Haman's house," and perhaps the language. Gam hine ha'etz, see, behold, there is the gallows, actually means that Achashverosh could in fact see the gallows from where he was in his palace. And that God basically had worked things out so that at that moment where Achashverosh was filled with his own rage at Haman, the gallows would actually be visible to him, to be a real, stark, palpable proof that of Haman's intentions towards Mordechai, and therefore seal the deal of Haman's execution and being hung on those same gallows that he had designed for Mordechai.